So good morning and good afternoon, everybody. I hope you are all having a fantastic week. Welcome to our second edition of our channel webinar series. I'm Liz Barnhart, OTAVA's channel chief, and I will be your host for today's webinar. Next slide. So today we're going to introduce you to the OTAVA Secure Framework and familiarize you with OTAVA's disaster recovery as a service powered by Zerto. And today's going to be more of a conversational approach to this discussion. And I know you guys are going to get a ton of useful nuggets to walk away with. So allow me to introduce our presenters for today. So I am joined by one of our favorite product managers, Chris Berlisky, as well as Senior Director of Channel Engineering and Enablement, Mr. Mike Caldwell. Again, hi, Mike. Chris and Mike, would you guys mind telling the audience a little bit about yourselves and your experience?
Sure. So I've been with OTAVA for almost 8 years now. Started on the support team, worked my way up through support leadership, and now I am in product management, primarily focusing on our data protection, disaster recovery, and kind of dabbling in our security suite as well. So that's where I'm at.
Thanks,
My
Chris.
name is Mike, as Liz so graciously introduced me. I've been with OTAVA for going on 11 years now in various roles similar to Chris's path. The last 7 or 8 years has been forward-facing in sales and solution architecture and in the channel. So happy to be here to help guide the conversation.
Thank you both. Well, I know we only have 30 minutes and there is certainly a lot to discuss, and hopefully at the end we will have some time for some Q&A. But now I'll pass things over to Chris to get us kicked off.
Thanks, Liz. Yeah, so the first thing we want to kind of talk about is our secure framework. So the OTAVA Secure Framework is a tool that we use to help our customers with their secure environment and their security journey when they're working with us, right? So we've got shrink, examine, contain, undo, recover, and evaluate. And all of these letters, this acrostic, kind of cover different pieces of your security stance, if you will, from firewall to reporting to what we're going to talk about today, which is recover, and that's DRAS, right? That's being able to recover your systems in the event of a malware attack or, physical disaster, things like that, right? So that's our secure framework. We've got a whole page dedicated to it on the website. If you go to otava.com/secure, lots of good stuff there. You get to see my pretty face doing some more videos and a couple of other people. So definitely go over and check that out. But yeah, we're going to be talking about DRAS today. So let's dive into DR. So Mike, when we talk about DR, right, we are talking about recovering systems from unplanned disruptions, right? Whether that's malicious or, like I said, a physical, natural disaster, or somebody pushed the wrong button. These things happen, right? Or
Happens more
people.
often than you want to think about, but it does.
So with DR, we really want to, we talk about, backups in DR. The reason we have these systems is so that your business doesn't just go down, right? We want to get your company up as often as we can keep you, right? So if you have one of these incidents, how fast can we get you back up so that you're not losing revenue for every minute that you're down?
Yeah, I agree with you. I think a couple things I think about, especially on this slide, is it's a shocking statistic to see how many companies, and even large companies, don't have DR or haven't tested DR. And in 2024, it's a matter of, when, not if, you're going to have an event, if it's ransomware or some sort of unplanned outage or downtime. And that not only affects your bottom line, but it affects your company's reputation to recover, especially if you're in healthcare or finance. There's lots of stories of hospital chains just being down hard and everybody has to go to paper and people are waiting weeks to see their doctor when it should take days. That's not just a horror story. It is a horror story, but it's truth. It's not just a potential. Uh, what you're seeing too is a move towards a greater adoption of DR. Now I think everybody has understood that ransomware is a daily occurrence, and where a lot of your, from a partnership standpoint, a lot of your end clients may have pushed off DR in the past, now are a lot more receptive to it, understanding the risks out there. So I want to get these numbers, especially the right number, closer to
Right.
100% for you and your clients.
Yeah. No, and I think, you touched on something, right, where a lot of customers or businesses don't have DR or a DR plan. And I think this slide is probably the biggest reason for that, right?
Mhm.
A lot of people conflate backups and DR, and
Yes,
they
sir.
are very much not the same thing, right?
No, and that's a really important takeaway. Backups are meant to retain your data for a long time. They are not primarily meant to recover you quickly. Can you recover from backups? Yes. Is it a smooth, orchestrated process that gets you up quickly? No. And so it is important for businesses to understand the difference and why you need both. In the inverse, disaster recovery, the variety of tools out there in the industry, are designed in the inverse. They're designed to get you up as fast as possible, but they're not meant to hold your data forever. So
Right.
you really need a combination. Now, some tools out there do both, but you have to be very careful that when somebody says like I have backups, I'm good, right? Well, no, you're not. Let's make sure that you actually can recover. So that's
Yeah.
really important.
Yeah, the thing that I like to like the analogy I like, not necessarily analogy, but the differentiator that I really like to would tell either potential customers or even with our marketing team and with our internal sales team, right? The biggest difference between, for me, backup and DR recovers your systems, right? So, like you said, get you back up as fast as possible. We can go back and get that data from your backups once you're up and running. But if it takes us, 12, 24, whatever hours to recover to start from backups, well, then you're waiting that entire time versus let's get you up and running, get people doing what they need to do, and then we can go back and get that data, right? That's
Yeah.
like for me the big thing.
And we'll cover this coming up here, but I think the important thing too is uh, there's a larger possibility of hours, if not days, of data loss when you just are restoring from backup. Most people are just doing a once per day backup. And can your organization really handle potentially 24 hours of data loss? And most of the time, when you ask that question, the answer is no,
Yeah.
right? And so we'll go from there. But I think we're on the next slide here.
Yeah, so I want to touch on one more quick thing. And that's so at the bottom of this slide, we talk about the run book and testing, right? And this is going to lead into our next slide, but understanding your critical systems and what needs to be protected where, what needs to be protected together,
Hmm.
right? Versus, we can put this just in backups or we can put this, or this needs to be in both, right? So when we get into this next slide, taking that recovery plan and then applying it here, right? So we
Yeah.
say, okay, here are the things that need to be up like that, right? Your front end web pages, your SQL systems, your everything that your business needs to run to
Hmm.
to function, you have to have that right away, right? And when we're talking about like high data availability, where we're talking about SQL or web or whatever, the things that you have those high change rates, we need to look at that tier zero continuous data protection, right?
Yeah, I agree with you. And to your point about testing it, though, so one of the secret sauce of OTAVA is the ability to orchestrate and make it easy to use and test. Also
Hmm.
have it's really a white glove service where we write a run book for you. We help you in testing, and it really, I get a lot of questions about, well, can I buy these tools and use them myself, and why do I need a service? We really make it easy button for you, and we allow you to test in a way that gives you the flexibility to test whenever you want without affecting production. So It's really helpful. And to your point here with the tiers, I think the biggest thing that we like to explain with this pyramid slide is we have different flavors of DR based on your client's needs around how fast they need to recover, right? To Chris's point, it's servers that are high change rate and need to be up with, near real time, you're going to be in that tier zero bucket. For servers that are still important and you want to recover them quickly, but they don't need the blazing fast, I need it up and running with as no data loss as possible, then you're going to fit into that tier one. And then there's still, we still can integrate recovering from backups for those tier two, tier three workloads that it's nice to have once you recover, but they aren't business critical. We want to make sure we protect with DR the things that keep your business running, and everything else we can restore from other methods. And the key takeaway here is that you can mix and match these tiers. You don't have to fit in one bucket, which is another reason why OTAVA is a differentiator in the space. We can protect, let's say you have 10 servers that are tier zero that are running your business. If you don't have those 10, you're down. Well, we put you in tier zero for those 10, and then you have 20 more VMs that they're business important. Maybe there's some functionality limitation without those, but you're still running. We want to get those up next. And then your dev test servers and your reporting servers and other things that in a true disaster you will need them, but you don't need them right away. Those things we would use something like recovery for backup or other tools there.
Yeah, for sure. No, I think that's all really good. And so let's transition that into talking about so we're talking about these different applications for the different solutions that we offer, right? Let's talk about why we have those different solutions, right? Why they're so important to have a tiered approach for different systems, right? If those front end systems are down, those super critical systems are down, and you only have backups, we're talking about hundreds of thousands to millions of dollars in lost revenue because your business just can't function, right? You've got staff that are sitting around doing nothing. You've got transactions that can't be processed. You've got all of these different things that your business just can't do because you're still waiting on backups to restore, especially if you've got high data loads, right, where you're recovering huge chunks of data. All of a sudden, you have to wait for all of that to recover.
Yeah, I like to tell the story. There's a past colleague of mine. He runs a credit union, and they're a client of OTAVA now, but pre-OTAVA, they had a DR event, but they only had backups, and for days their tellers could not transact in branches. There's no banking ability to bank, and it was hugely impactful for that credit union for a series of years. As not only did they take so much time to recover, but their reputation hit that they took and it took years to recover and kind of move past that. So it's really important to understand that we need to make sure that we can get from a business resiliency standpoint, our conversation with your clients isn't about what speeds and feeds and tools. It's really about what does the business need to recover, and then in that tiering approach. And you can see here on the slide, the difference of if the bottom row is that tier zero, and that tier one row is the middle row, and anything below that would be that top row. That's how we would want to coordinate your workloads and servers and business applications to fit in those buckets.
Yeah, for sure. And just to for the non-technical people that are out there following along with us, when we talk about that bottom chunk of RPO versus RTO, right? RTO is recovery time. That's how long it takes us to get you from, hey, I need the data, to, okay, it's up and running, or I need these systems, okay, they're up and running, right? And RPO, the recovery point, is what's the gap in in data loss, right? How quickly or how short of a time frame in between data points can I recover from, right?
And that's a really good point, because if you were recovering from backup, if we're just looking at the graphic here, the disaster strikes at 1:05 p.m. Well, what happens when your backups ran at 12 midnight the day before, right? That's 13 hours and 5 minutes of data loss.
Yeah.
Whereas, that tier one solution, there was a snapshot taken 4 hours ago, so we're looking at 4 hours of data
Right.
loss in that graphic. Whereas the continuous data replication, it would be an hour or less of data loss,
Right.
and in most cases, a lot less.
Yeah, right. And that's, we use an hour because we like to be, safe and
Mhm.
conservative, but in a lot of situations with that CDP, it's going to be significantly less than that 1 hour time frame. So if you
Measuring
need data from
seconds or
10 minutes,
minutes.
yeah, right. If you need
Yeah,
data from 10 minutes ago, more often than not, we're going to be able to get that for you.
correct.
So on that note, let's talk about our partner, right? So Zerto, Zerto DRAS. This is our tier zero, our CDP solution. Um, we love working with them because this is, it's the gold standard in disaster recovery, right?
Yeah, it's Zerto is the industry leader. I like to say they're the Rolls Royce, right? There are there are Ford Pintos out there you can buy, but when it comes to mission critical, Zerto is the tool of choice. And when Chris refers to CDP, he's talking about continuous data protection, and that is the way to think about it. Is every time that there's any data saved on your systems, they are instantly replicated over to OTAVA. And what Zerto does is it presents you a journal. Let's say by default 12 hours, but you can have this journal go back up to 14 days. And at the start, every couple seconds, and longer through that journal history, every couple minutes, you're going to have a restore point. And why I love this is because if you have a ransomware event at 1 p.m. on a Friday, you can go back to 12:45 on that Friday, restore from with Zerto, and when you restore into Otava, you know that that is a clean environment for you that can get you up and running, and you're not held hostage like you are if you didn't have something like that. So Zerto is extremely powerful, and it is we have numerous case studies about our clients recovering from ransomware. So you know. Hit our website for those details. Liz and I can also, and the partners listening out there, can help arm you with those case studies for your clients. So, this is a great tool against ransomware for that reason.
And not just powerful in its replication technology, right? But like when we talk about testing, right? Testing is such and building that the business continuity plan, having the ability to set specific settings on your systems if it's test or live recovery, right? So like if we want to like if we're testing, we want to put it in an isolated environment so that we can mess around with those test systems without impacting production, right? We don't want it publishing those systems while they're in test, but we still want to be able to make sure that everything's functioning.
Yeah.
So Zerto gives us a lot of that for onboarding and for planning, right? Let's say you're a new customer or you're one of our channel partners and you've got a customer that's like, okay, well I have all of these systems. What is that gonna look like, right? What can I do? Zerto's got an analytics tool that we can just hook right in and say, here you go. This is what you need for this service to do what it needs to do. This is what it'll cost you. This is everything, right? And we
Right.
can adjust sliders for, you talked about journal history, right? 12
Mhm.
hours to Zerto does up to 30 days. When you get to 30 days, it gets a little tricky to recover that older data because it's got to scroll back through everything. But we can give you, here's what that looks like from 12 hours to 30 days. Here's how much storage you need. Here's what your replication time looks like. All of these really cool things that Zerto has baked into its product, right? And one of the really cool new things that they're doing that we are going to have access to very soon is that they just released for partners is what they call like it's like malware detection, right? Where if it senses encryption on any of those files, we get alerts. So
Yeah, very exciting feature. Can't wait to see it in
super
action.
cool. I'm
Yep.
I'm I can't wait for us to get to that point, right? But I love Zerto. I can talk about Zerto all day and how much I love
I'm
their
gonna get you
products.
a
And
hat.
and for anyone in chat or watching this later on, if you want more detail, more like technical details, we're going to be doing another webinar August 8th.
Yeah, and that'll go in the weeds even more. So
Yeah,
strap in.
strap in. I like that. All right. Other upcoming webinars. What else have we got going on?
I think before we jump into the other upcoming webinars, you guys are kind
Yeah.
of on a roll, and there have been a few questions that have come in. So I thought
Okay.
we may have hit on some of them, but one question that popped in from a partner, they just want to know, how does OTAVA help clients make decisions around RPO and retention?
Yeah, so that is a great question. It comes down to the OTAVA solution architect team in conjunction with you and our account executive, really doing discovery and understanding the business. There are We go through a process of gathering all the details of their server environment, sit down with your clients to classify business critical versus business important. And a lot of times clients haven't gone through that exercise before, so it's okay if we take a couple passes at it. I think the thing that's important is that we're committed to the journey of sitting down and helping your clients understand how to do that. Because you can absolutely protect Zerto with everything, but there is some benefits to doing that tiered approach financially, but also we want to marry workloads to their RTOs. So it really comes down to, for me in that conversation, I would a lot of times I ask the IT department of the client if they have RTO obligations to their other business units or the executives, right? And sometimes they do, so we know, okay, well, you've already committed that it's 4 hours, so everything has to be at least 4 hours, right? Or they go, I don't know. But then it starts the exercise of, well, let's ask. Let's, we need to gather from the different business units, how mission critical is this? And what will happen in that journey is, once you start, especially once your clients are engaging the rest of their colleagues, they become an ally for you, because they know it's important, and then they start putting the green light up for all the other decision makers in the company to realize, oh yeah, I do need to be up and running in a week, or wait, we can't do that. And so it builds that conversation. The last thing I'd add is, we have a living document called a DR runbook. So as it's okay if a business doesn't know all the answers right away. We can come in and say, okay, well, let's just protect everything with tier 1 or tier 0. And then, down the road, as things evolve, we can pivot and say, okay, we've learned now that, hey, maybe not everything needs to be tier 0. Let's adjust some things to tier 1. And that run book will constantly be updated of what servers are in which tier, how to fail them over, the goal of our run books, and why OTAVA is a leader in this space, is, the way I think about it is, if your executive team and your IT team are on a plane and nobody from your company can fail over, so the janitor or the billing person could, if they had the rights to do it, could engage DR, and we would successfully fail over, because everything's documented what to do. And so that's important to give your clients that peace of mind, that no matter, even if your IT guy is out of pocket, we can still fail you over, which is important.
Yeah,
There's
no,
also,
Mike, I
oh,
love the
go.
description. I love the description of it as a journey, right? And
Mhm.
I'm gonna go back to our secure framework, right? The whole framework is about a journey, right? It's about building. It doesn't have to be. You don't have to hit every single checkbox the first time, right?
The
And
fact that you're
and
trying is already ahead of the industry, right?
right. Start with square one and then iterate. That's
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
So a second part to that first question was if we had any kind of testing recommendations.
Chris, you want to handle that one?
Twice a year minimum. Twice
And
a
it's
year minimum.
and it's important. Our SLAs are dependent on that twice a year test. And that test, we have found in years and years of doing DR as a service, that only when you test are you successful. Because you might have been successful when we went through implementation and we did a test failover and everything worked, but a year later you've made changes or you've made new servers and forgot to add them to Zerto, and then you go to do a DR, and then either the networking hasn't been updated, or the right servers aren't in the right places. And so those two tests a year are non-impactful. So as Chris talked about before, Zerto has the option, or the ability, to allow you to test in a vacuum, to bring everything up while production is isolated, so you don't have to, you're not conflicting. everybody's still using production, but you can bring up that DR workload with us, privately. And that's all that test is. Make sure things come up in OTAVA, make sure that everything works internally, and then you can shut it down. But we do
And
require twice a year.
yeah, and part of that is right. We like you mentioned, with all of the change, even if you're a relatively low change environment, something is going to change in 6 months, right? Something is going to change. And so, as a partner, we want to make sure that you have the tools available to recover your systems. So we need to work together, and that it does require work on both ends, right? To make sure we schedule those tests and do them, because OTAVA can say, okay, here, spin up your DR, and then we can say, yeah, they all spun up, but we don't know if that's actually a recovery or not, because your systems, your customers know their systems, so it's not just I want to it's a partnership, right? We want to help you, but we need to make sure that you have everything you need to do it.
Chris, how complex is it to test your DR
Super
service?
easy.
Yeah.
Super easy. It's a couple of buttons. And we have our Encore portal where you can do all of your testing with Zerto straight through our portal. So you don't even have to engage support if you don't want to. If you want to do your testing all on your own and you want to do it quarterly or monthly or whenever, log into Encore, push a couple of buttons, log into your VMware instance, you're good to go. Or log into your systems if they're public from there, right?
Yeah.
That's the easy button.
It's
Last
easy
question
button.
that's come in, and then I'll take a look for one more. I know we only have a couple minutes left, but what does failed back look like once they've restored their production environment?
Yes, this is a question we get all the time, right? It's okay, I have a DR event and I failed over to OTAVA. How do I get my servers back when I fix my production issue? Well, the answer is really easy. We just flip the script and we start replicating back. We treat OTAVA as production in that case, and we'll treat your production site as DR. We'll replicate everything back, and then we'll do a simulated failover and fail things back to production the same easy way it was failed over to us in the first place. Very easy to do. And then also spurns the conversation of once you're in DR, like, does it make sense to stay in the cloud? Like, or does it make sense to come back on premise? And those questions you can have with your clients or the partners out there when they go through an event like that. But easy for us to fail them back when they're ready.
Yeah, and let's say it's like a hardware failure, right? On your customer's premise, right? And they're all of their hardware is gone. Well, let's talk about staying in the cloud, but also keeping your DR service and replicating to a different cloud node, right?
Absolutely.
That way, you get the best of both worlds.
Excellent. Well, thanks, guys. Let's go ahead and move on and talk about the upcoming webinar series, if you don't mind. Perfect. So going forward, our monthly webinars will actually be on demand for everyone. So you'll be able to access these via the Cloud Pulse Partner Portal. If you haven't already registered, feel free to either jump on otava.com. At the top right-hand corner, you'll see a link to the partner portal. You can also reach out to your channel manager for assistance with that. But these sessions are really designed, like we've said before, to empower our partners with the knowledge and best practices. And next month, we'll be discussing how OTAVA can help navigate all things related to compliance, which is another one of our superpowers. And then in September, we're going to be covering optimizing data protection with Veeam. Next slide. Perfect. Hey, and don't forget to subscribe to our podcast. It's called The Notice. It's hosted by our very own TJ Howski and Melissa Locke. It is so much fun. They do a great job. Every episode kind of deep dives into tech that powers businesses. They have leadership stories that are really, I think inspire you. I know they inspire me. And they talk about company culture. So it's pretty great. Like, again, a lot of comic relief along the way. So I'm sure you'll enjoy it. You can either subscribe, you can find the link on our website, or you can just jump right into YouTube and look for The Notice. All right. Well, we covered off on our questions, so I'm going to keep it right here at time and thank everybody for joining. If there's questions that had come in via the chat that we didn't happen to see, we'll make sure that we get a response to you via email, and then you will look forward to a copy of this presentation and a link to listen to it on demand. Thanks everybody for joining. Have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, Liz.